Hi everyone, it's Lindy on from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to use a brand new set of stamps and dies from Art Impressions, and they are just so cute. I can't wait to show you. And we're also going to be doing some stenciling and using some glitter paste today. So let's get started by creating our background. I've got this 3-pack of stencils. These are from the Vicki Boutin collection, and you can see you get these really neat designs. You get the flowers, the hearts, and those little circular bubbles. So we're going to use the flowers for today, and then I'm going to grab my rounded rectangle die set. I'll grab that largest one. Again, this is from Art Impressions. I'm going to go ahead and die cut that using some Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. I've placed it in my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine, and I'll go ahead and run that through. That'll give us a nice stitched edge around the sides of this panel. I'm placing just a little bit of Tombow Mono tape on the back of this just to hold it in place, and I've got it on my magnetic station. This is from Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station. And I'm going to start with some Distress Oxide ink. So again, I've got this beautiful floral pattern. It's really fun and kind of funky. And I'm going to place that Spun Sugar Distress Oxide ink all over, using a small blending brush to apply this ink. We're going to be adding layers of color to this. So I'm going to add a nice even layer of that, and then I'm going to come in with the picked raspberry. And I'm just doing the center of the flower and out just a little bit into those petals. So maybe about a ½ inch into those petals. And again, I'm using a smaller brush so that I can have it a little more detailed as to where I'm applying that ink. And then the last color I've grabbed is the Festive Berries, and I've just placed that right in the center of the flower. Now, what I'm using is the Pinkfresh Studio. This is a 1/4 inch brush, and I'm just going to move that ink from the center out towards the edges just a little bit, just kind of blending it into that lighter Spun Sugar color. And what I'm going to do now is pat off any of that excess ink that's sitting up on top of the stencil, and I'm coming back in with a larger blending brush, and I'm just going to blend these out. And you can see I don't have to be really super careful. I can just lightly blend this. And again, I want to keep the center area of the flower a little bit darker. And I'm cleaning off that brush as I go, just so that I'm not blending too much of that darker ink into the lighter ink. So I'm just taking off any excess ink off that brush and just blending it out. So you can see how quickly this goes. And then as a last little bit of additional color to the center of each of those flowers, going back to that Festive Berries, and I'm just using that small 1/4 inch brush to apply a little bit darker center to each of these. So let's go ahead and remove that stencil. Then I've got that Festive Berries ink. I'm placing a little bit onto my Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station. I've spritzed it with a little bit of water from my Distress sprayer, and I'm going to just spatter this on. And I'm using a small number 0 paintbrush to do this so that I get some little tiny spatters. So once that panel is all set, I'm going to set that aside to dry quickly. I'm going to be coming back to this and doing a little bit more to it. Just wanted to show you how I clean my stencils. I just take a microfiber towel, I place it on top, I spritz it with a little bit of water, and then I fold the towel over and just rub that front side gently. And that will remove any ink off the front and the back at the same time, so you don't have to keep fussing with it and turning it over. And then any excess you see, you can quickly just wipe away. So let's go ahead and set that aside. Now I've got the Glitter Hero Arts Paste. This is a beautiful shimmery glitter that will dry clear with just this beautiful sparkle in it. I've got my Nuvo silicone spatula, and that's a 2-pack that those are sold on. This is the smaller one that I'm using. I'm going to line that stencil back up. Now it's completely dry, so I'm going to go ahead and add this glitter paste. Now you certainly could have done this all in one step, but I wanted to do it in 2 separate steps. I wanted to let that ink dry before I came in with the glitter paste. That way I get a little bit less of that color absorbing up into the paste, because I did want this to look like a clear glitter over top. But again, you could certainly do these at the same time. So let's go ahead and add a nice layer of this. I wanted a nice thick layer, so I'm just kind of using that spatula to scrape away any excess. We'll put any excess back in the container, and then you do want to make sure you clean off that spatula really well and that stencil. So we'll clean that off again the same way I cleaned it off before. So let's go ahead and lift that stencil, and I want to show you how beautiful this is. This glitter paste is just gorgeous. Look at all the pretty sparkle we get, as well as that nice dimension. Now let's take a look at the brand new set from Art Impressions. This is called the So Sweet Armful set. And you get a couple little accessories. You get an elephant and a bear, a heart, a cupcake, and a little sentiment. And then the coordinating dies. And what's really special about these dies is they're going to cut a little slit at the top and the bottom of the arms so that you can place something in the arms. We're going to place that little heart in there today, but you could certainly put anything in there you like. So I went ahead and stamped this using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink and some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. And I've got the Pink Haze Zig Clean Color Real Brush pen that I used on the cheeks. And then I'm switching over to the beige and the mid brown to color in his little body. So we're going to use the blender, the Zig blender pen, to do our blending today. But as I always tell you, you could certainly use a water brush here, whatever's easier for you. I'm going to blend that out. I'm keeping a little bit of some darker shadows off to the left-hand side, and then just pulling it lighter and lighter towards the center of the face. If you have too much ink on your blender, just scribble it onto your scrap paper, and then you can go on to your next section. So here you can see I'm removing some of that color again. We'll add a little bit more of that beige and mid-brown down underneath the chin. Very little though. I'm almost just kind of tapping on that mid-brown, just a couple little dots of it, and then I'm going to blend that in. And then for the nose, I'll put both colors and a little bit of the mid-brown right at the bottom of the nose. And we'll pull that color up towards the top to keep the top the lightest. You can come back in with your pink. I'm just adding a little bit more to the cheeks and blending it out a little bit better. And then here I'm just going again back to that pink and adding a little bit onto the tongue. And then for the little arms, we'll use those same two colors. Now, as I mentioned before, these dies are fantastic because what will happen when we use the die to cut this out is it will create a little slit above the arms and below the arms. And we're going to slide that little heart right into place. But again, you could slide anything in there. You could slide the little cupcake that comes with this set or a sentiment. So just have some fun with that. Even some flowers would be really cute. A little bouquet of flowers would be so cute. So let's add a few more shadows, and then we'll go on to do the feet. And basically those same two colors, and we'll add a little bit of a shadowing where the two legs come together and then right below the pant line. And just blend that out. And then for that little heart, we're going to do a little bit of watercoloring with our ink pads. So what I'm going to do is apply those inks directly to my glass media mat, and then we'll add some color to that heart, and we're going to also add some cute little polka dots using that watercolor technique as well. For the outfit, for the little overalls, I'm using the gray tint. So this is just a nice tint color. Basically, I wanted the overalls to mostly look white, but I wanted to add a few shadows here and there. We'll add a few shadows up underneath the arms, and then just a couple on the straps. And I really didn't need to worry about the straps because they ended up not showing, so I didn't have to worry too much about that. So now let's go on to the picked raspberry and the festive berries again. We'll apply those directly to the glass medium mat and give those a little spritz of water. And then I'm going back to that number 0 brush and we'll paint on some color onto these hearts. And that's so that this little heart will match our background perfectly. You could certainly use your zigs here as well, but I thought it would be fun just to match up the colors. So I'm starting with that lighter color and I'm getting it nice and wet. Then I'll just drop in some of the darker color for a few shadows. So I didn't spend a lot of time on this. I just quickly added a little bit of color and kept that center area fairly light. And then for a little bit of fun, I'm just going to flip that paintbrush around and use that rounded edge to add some polka dots to the little outfit. So I'm just dipping the end of that brush right into that ink and then just dotting it on. And I thought this gave it a really whimsical look. All of the little dots are not the exact same size, and I really like that. It's just kind of fun, and it definitely has a little bit of a watercolor feel to it. And then I'm going to just go over some of those just to darken them up a little bit more. And for the heart, I'm going to go to that darker color and do the same thing. Now you could also use some pattern paper here if you prefer. Even on the little outfit, you could do some paper piecing. Use a plaid or a polka dot or a stripe. That would be really cute as well. So now my background is completely dry and I love how it came out. I die cut a second panel just because this was a little bit warped from all of that glitter paste. So I'm going to go to my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. I'll add some adhesive all around the back of this and we'll attach these two together. That'll just flatten out that panel and gives it a little bit of substance as well. Now here's the die. These are the two dies that come with the set. We're going to go ahead and line this up. Do take a little bit of time to line that up. Again, it's going to be cutting those slits in the arms, so you want to make sure you line it up really well. And I'm using some post-it tape just to hold these in place while I run them through the Sizzix Sidekick machine. And look there's those little slits that you get. And then we've got that little heart and it'll tuck right inside his arms, which again, I just think is so precious. And next we'll go to the gift card pocket set. This creates a little pocket, like a little gift card pocket. You could use it for anything. It also has a sentiment that says thank you, which we're going to be using later on. And then it has all these little pieces you need to create a bow. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these. Again, I'm using that same Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. I ran those through the Sizzix Sidekick machine. These little portions of the bow are scored. So when you die cut them, there is a score line. But I did decide just to round them a little bit with my pencil just to give them a little bit more dimension. So I did fold those in half and then I used that pencil to round those up a little bit. And you can see that I had to cut 2 of these for the bow. And then I cut 2 of those longer panels. Those will go behind the bow and act as the ribbon. And then we've got that little tiny rectangle that will be the center of the bow, and then this one with these 2 little arrows on either end will be the little bow tie portion. So I'm going to go ahead and center this left side of the bow, and then I'm going to place some more glue on that piece and place this one right over top and making sure that the whole thing is centered. Then I'm just going to clamp that down with my scrapbook.com reverse tweezers and let that dry. Once that was dry, I added a little bit of glue to the front and the back of the center of the bow. And then I've got this little piece here that I went ahead and folded. And I'm going to just wrap that around the center. And I'll clamp this down as well just to make sure this dries completely and then it dries nice and straight. So let's clamp that down. Now once this is dry, I'm going to add these 2 ends. I'm just adding a little bit of glue to the end of each of these little rectangles, and then we'll line up the bow. I'm using that grid on my glass medium mat to make sure I line this up nice and straight. And I did that for both sides. Now once that was dry, I'm just showing you the front and the back and how that looks. I'm going to set that aside, let that dry, and once that was dry, I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of this, and then we'll attach it to the front of the card. I'm placing it down towards the bottom of the card, maybe about an inch up from the bottom or 3/4 of an inch. I'm centering it, and then I'll take my Holtz titanium shears and just trim away any of that excess. There's that thank you, that beautiful sentiment that came with that same die set. And then I'm going to die cut that from some Lawn Fawn raspberry cardstock. Now I will die cut this 3 times. I'm going to die cut it 2 times out of some white cardstock. Once I have those die cut, we're going to just layer these together. That'll give this sentiment a little bit of dimension. I'm adding glue, just little tiny dots of glue all over, and then we'll attach these 2 together. And then you do want to take a little bit of time to make sure you line these up nicely. I just kind of keep futzing around a little bit until I get it lined up. Now you could use that same raspberry paper to do all 3 layers if you prefer, but I wanted a little bit of that white to show from behind the sentiment. I just thought it added a little bit more dimension, or just a little bit more interest, I guess I should say. So I went ahead and added some glue to this one, and we'll attach these 3 together. I'm going to let that sit and dry. Let's create a standard A2 size card. I'm scoring it 4 1/4 inches, and that panel measured 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, and I'm scoring it at 4 1/4. We can go ahead and add this panel to the front of the card, and that'll give us this nice rounded edges on the corners, which again, just adding a little bit more interest to the card. I am spreading that glue right around to the edges to make sure this lays nice and flat. And I'll center that on the card. Now let's go back to our little bear. We're going to pop this little guy up. I've got some foam, 3D foam tape, and I'm going to apply a strip of it down the center. That'll also hold that heart in place on the front of the card. You could certainly glue that heart down, but the tape did both things for me, so I didn't need to add any glue. Everything will be securely in place. Then I'm going to pop this up, kind of standing at the top of that ribbon, and then let's go ahead and place the thank you down. I'm going to add those little dots of glue on the back of this, and then we'll go ahead and attach that to the card. Just take your time making sure you line that up really well. And then once that was done, I'm going to let that dry. And I've got these beautiful pearls from the Picket Fence Studio collection. And these are like a 2-tone pearl, so it's kind of a raspberry color with a little bit of a chocolate brown, which I thought brought all of these colors together and brought in a little bit of that brown from the bear. So I'm going to add 3 here and then a couple in that upper right hand corner. Now you could certainly use a craft color card base for this if you wanted to. That would be pretty as well. I'm going back to the same stamp set, and I'm grabbing the sentiment that comes with the set that says "You're so sweet." And I've got the nested heart dies from Art Impressions, and you can see you get quite a collection of those. You even get that pretty scalloped heart. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that sentiment right back onto some of that raspberry cardstock. I've got my Pink and Main anti-static powder. I'm going to place a little bit of that on the cardstock because we're going to be embossing this. So I've got my Versamark watermark ink pad. Let's go ahead and stamp that. I'm going to stamp that a couple of times, and I'm not pressing down real hard. I'm just lightly stamping that each time so that I get a nice crisp stamping. And then I've got some Ranger super fine detail white embossing powder. I'm going to sprinkle that on. Let's just tap away any excess, and then I'll use my heat tool to heat set this. And I'm just getting that heat tool nice and hot before I go to the cardstock, and then we'll quickly heat set that. Once that's done and cool, I like to let it cool. I take just a dry towel and wipe off any of that anti-static powder. And then I'm going to line that heart up, just centering that sentiment. Let's go ahead and run that through the Sizzix Sidekick as well. And this will go on the inside of the card. And I'm just going to quickly put some glue on that and center it. So I didn't fuss with the center a lot, but I really like that "You're so sweet" sentiment. So let's take a closer look at the finished card and that background. Oh, I just love that glitter paste. And this little bear is just so cute. So we have a lot of dimension, a lot of texture, and a lot of interest on this card. And I really hope you enjoyed today's card. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.